Welcome, thank you for joining us for the FWA review. I'm Carrie Brown, this is Patrick Barclay, our chairman. What are we doing here?
We're here to review the best of the previous week's football writing. That's what we do, and that's what we're going to be doing every week from now on.
We're also going to be giving you the story behind the story, picking out some of the big headlines, explaining how and why they got there, and looking at some of the big headlines. We're going to be looking at a bit of a review of the weekend. Boring Man United, brilliant Manchester City.
Yeah, absolutely. It's boring was the headline over Neil Moxley's piece in the Sunday Mirror, and that really chimed with a lot of reaction to that match.
And we'll also be flagging up some of the big events coming up from the FWA Live ahead of Manchester City and Manchester United. Manchester United, Manchester City, fittingly at Hotel Football as well.
Right next to Old Trafford, yeah.
Right next to Old
but
Trafford.
Everybody will be welcome.
Everyone welcome if they dare cross the divide. And also to the Northern Football Writers Association dinner. That's all to come. Let's first of all look at the back pages though. That boring headline from Neil Moxley.
Yeah.
Painful too.
Well, I think Jose going and parking the bus was hardly a story, hardly unexpected, but it was still a shock because of the big build-up to that game. And of course, what pointed it up was that the same day Manchester City are scoring 7 goals, and I mean Andy Dunn also in the Sunday Mirror, great column about Guardiola, what he's producing at Manchester City, rebuilding Barcelona for the second time, and he makes the point: forget Messi. This is a Manchester City team. So in other words, the jibe that Pep's Manchester City wouldn't be the same without bringing Lionel Messi has been laid to rest, I think.
Interesting story that grabbed all the back pages on Monday. Jose Mourinho not ruling out a move to PSG.
Yeah.
I can put that into context a bit. It's TF1, a French broadcaster. We all do it, asking if he'd ever rule out the possibility of going to Paris Saint-Germain. So it's not as much stalling.
I think the old phrase we have about a come and get me story, I don't think this was a come and... If I was a Manchester United supporter, I wouldn't be worried just yet.
Equally though, when you've parked the bus and you're getting criticism for it, it's not unhelpful for Mourinho, is it?
No, exactly. It's another story, and he's brilliant at moving the agenda on. I don't know whether he thought this one out, but he does it all the time.
He does, doesn't he? While we're talking about thought it out, let's have a little chat about another story. Pep Guardiola and his Harry Kane team. Pochettino's reaction to it. Too harsh, or do you have to do it?
Now this is an instance where journalists are doing their job. They're playing this table tennis, going to people and saying, he said this and he said that. And of course, they never learn. They fall for it every time. But I don't think this will be. I don't think this will be a lasting feud. I just think it's a good knockabout journalism. That's what we. Well, it's just as good as the long form pieces.
A little bit cheeky, a little bit naughty, but also behind the story.
Yes.
Do you think Mauricio Pochettino, if Daniel Levy had read that Harry Kane team, if the players in the dressing room had read that, did he have to come out and say
it was we can't have them waiting and thinking every time before they... I mean, we'd be the first to complain if manager said, I need to have half an hour to work to speak to the press office before I answer the question. I think when he said he was...
By the way, we are filming this
in the middle
of Stormophilia.
Yes.
Thank you for our bravery. We're incredibly courageous. Unlike what moves us on.
But no, the accusation has come from Troy Deeney in what's been described as one of the great pieces of football analysis, where he said basically that Arsenal lacked backbone, perhaps a different part of the anatomy, but it's the same thing. And that he when he plays Arsenal, he tests out the 2 centre-backs or 3, depending on the system they're playing, and he found this weekend that none of them fancied it.
Jeremy Wilson talking about dementia. It's been a big Telegraph campaign, hasn't it? But a remarkable story that came out this week that 22 years ago, the FA were warned about the links to dementia and football after Danny Blanchflower sadly died of Alzheimer's. I mean, that's remarkable.
I think it's remarkable. I think it's disturbing as well, because I mean, basically, what scares football to death about the links with dementia is that people in charge of football and fans, it's not something that readers can wash their hands of. They're scared of banning heading. It's as simple as that. And if at the end of what we have to confront, I think, in the long term is, can we afford to have heading? But in between that, and as the Telegraph and this is a brilliant campaign in the Telegraph, Jeremy Wilson largely to the fore, and we need a lot of research between now and then to find out, because if it is dangerous, it has to stop.
It's certainly a contentious issue, isn't it?
Yeah,
And you rather
it
feel
will
the
be.
clubs don't really want to go there, nor do
No.
the FA, but they are holding an investigation. They're going to fund an investigation with the PFA. We're waiting to hear more on that. So they're certainly making the right moves and the right noises. Let's look ahead now to actually some books that have brought some revelations and made some headlines from our football writers. We're going to go first, fittingly, as Tottenham go to the Bernabeu, to Pochettino remarkably saying he'd take the poison chalice of the England job in one of our members, Guillaume Balaguer's.
Yeah, I mean, Balaguer has done it again. Guillaume Balaguer, one of our members, really has history of producing exceptional books on exceptional football people. And in this diary of a season with Pochettino, he's very, very astutely and cleverly drawn out items from the news agenda of today. And a perfect example you've just hit on, the fact that Pochettino says, given that he's produced so many of England's best young players over the years with his club jobs at Southampton, Tottenham, one day he'd like to manage them, which I think the people of Spain will find interesting, let alone us.
But Argentina.
Or Argentina, yes, exactly. But you know, it's a really interesting news angle. They're peppered all over these extracts in the Mail. Harry Kane saying that Pochettino had told him to lose weight. You know, you wouldn't think, looking at Harry Kane now, can't do a thing wrong, and it looks a magnificent physical specimen, that Pochettino's first reaction was to say, Harry, you're too fat. Amazing stuff.
Martin Lipton as well. I don't want to focus focus on Tottenham too much, but he's a book on White Hart Lane. They're bringing the revelation that Sir Alex Ferguson shook on when he was managing at Scotland on a deal to manage Tottenham.
Well, I certainly never knew it went that far. So Lipton's book is definitely deserves a lot of attention. It also, of course, makes you wonder how the respective histories of Manchester United and Tottenham would have gone had that handshake led to a contract.
Yeah, you couldn't imagine when that book was coming out about White Hart Lane. You might actually have Manchester United fans having a sigh of relief after hearing their story.
I think they would, yeah.
There we are. Always good to get those books and to get those little snippets of detail that you get when you have those nice long interviews. They do throw out some fantastic stories. Looking ahead to the week's agenda, Sam Wallace talking about it now this week. Annie Aluka, of course, the work of Cunningham and of course Wallace that really moved this story ahead. A select committee this week, that's going to be a huge story. The FA under the spotlight.
Yeah, Sam Wallace's reporting always measured and balanced and sensitive, never more needed than in this story about probably one of the most troubling long-running shambles ever to befall the FA. I mean, I'm not making light of the issues involved, but it does seem that when you pay hush money to someone and you don't get any hush for it, there's a lot more to come.
A lot more to come. This is an FA, though. It's trying to bring evolution, if not revolution. So this is a real setback for them.
Very, very good. The FA's intentions are good, but the complexities of the issues with which they're having to build in a game of increasing diversity, which we all want, you don't envy them.
Yeah, great week of European action coming up with fantastic football fixtures ahead of us, and also some big events for the FWA. The first coming up, the Northern Football Writers Dinner on Sunday the 26th of November, one of our key events.
Yes, absolutely.
Nothing
there
going
are.
up
Still
north
tickets?
anyway.
What? Yeah.
No football going on up there. I'm not a bit jealous in the south.
But it's very, very, always well attended by managers who win awards and are presented with them.
Yeah, that will be a fantastic event. Oh, I think What good timing that we're wrapping up right now, huh? Because Ophelia
We've been
seems to think
literally
we must
blown
be.
away this time.
And FWA Live, a fantastic event. Few tickets on there. Setting it up nice.
Yeah.
It's right ahead of Manchester City, Manchester United. Manchester United, Manchester City, importantly, and I know that because it's at Hotel Football right next to Old Trafford. Fans, do come along. We're going to have some fantastic guests to be confirmed in the coming weeks, I believe. But lots going on.
Stay with us.
Stay with us. Lots going on at the FWA. Stay tuned. We're going to bring you an update next week too. From us and Storm Ophelia. Bye-bye.